The key lesson I learned from my Cloudera journey, ease of use and building easy to use products for developers is one of the most effective ways to build successful products in this space. Every app around us, every machine around us will have an interface that will allow us to talk to it. Don't get excited about GenAI for the purpose of GenAI. Focus on what problem can I solve leveraging GenAI. If you do it that way, then your chances of success will be way higher than just building something you think is cool. So before you go and waste your time, make sure you're solving a good problem for somebody first.
Amr, great for joining me on our podcast. Before you started Vectara, you were co-founder of Cloudera. So basically, you are totally in love with everything AI, big data, like me, and SaaS, of course. So would love to learn about what is the exact problem that you are trying to solve for your customers.
So as many of your listeners might be aware, there is a new wave of technologies that we refer to as GenAI technologies, generative AI technologies, or large language models. And these are things like ChatGPT. I realized while I was at Google, I did join Google for a couple of years after Cloudera for 2 years. I was in Google Cloud, and in Google Cloud and Google at large, they had actually some of the very earlier versions of these technologies, like 2 years before ChatGPT even was available. And it was clear that the technologies have a number of problems that need to be solved for them to be useful and applicable within a business environment. So for consumers, it's okay if the technology is not perfect, but for businesses, you cannot make mistakes. One of the key problems, for example, is the problem of hallucinations. Hallucinations is where these large language models can make up stuff that sounds very correct and sounds very accurate, but is completely wrong. And of course, that can be very dangerous. Like imagine doing a legal contract where that happens, or doing a medical diagnosis of a patient where that happens, or doing a financing or accounting statement for a client, and that happens. So you cannot have these hallucinations, essentially. So we worked very hard at Vectara to solve that problem, and we did solve the problem of hallucinations. But also solve a number of other problems that are very important for the enterprise, like security. And I can talk about that later, what I mean by that. Explainability, explaining the responses of these AI systems. In many regulated industries, you're not allowed to just take a response. You have to explain, why is this the right response? Why you're taking this action? So we solved that problem as well. And then you have to mitigate for bias, like the system cannot be biased in terms of how it makes conclusions. That's also another very hard problem. And last but not least, some of these large language models have been trained on content that might be the copyright of somebody else. Like, for example, you might have heard that New York Times in the US is suing OpenAI because sometimes ChatGPT produces paragraphs that are verbatim paragraphs from the New York Times. Being able to monitor the output of these systems and suppress copyrighted materials is also very, very important. And many businesses care about that, because otherwise, if they publish something that's copyrighted by somebody else, that's a liability that falls back on them. So in summary, what we do is trusted GenAI. So we take the GenAI technologies and we make them more trusted and more reliable for enterprise and business applications.
So basically, ChatGPT is for consumers, and you are for businesses who want to make sure that the output of the Gen AI makes sense and is not costing them additional money because of copyright issues or something like this. When you trained the model, are you training this only on the enterprise customer data, or do you pre-train it on whatever, some kind of global data, and then only make sure that the information on it is not violating copyright?
The latter. One of the key benefits actually that we also have as a platform is that we don't do any training on the customer data. So we employ an architecture that is becoming more common now. It's called RAG. RAG stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. And the idea of Retrieval Augmented Generation is very simple. Instead of having one large language model focused on doing everything, meaning remembering all of your data and also answering questions about your data, let's have one large language model that just focused on understanding everything and reasoning about it and so on. And then we have another model that is focused on remembering everything, the memorization aspect. So when your data comes in, your data goes to the first model, which converts your data from words, German, English, French, into meanings instead. So it converts the words into meanings. These meanings are stored as a long list of numbers. We call them vectors. Just going back to school, when you have a long list of numbers, it's called a vector. Another term you will hear in the industry is the term of embeddings. And embedding is really this kind of idea of embedding the words from a human space into a numerical space that the computers can understand. So the first model does that. It converts all of your data from words into meanings, stores all of these meanings in a vector system. It's called a vector database. It's a very common term now that's evolving. And then when the user's question comes in or the user's prompt comes in, it also is converted from German or English into meaning instead. And we take the meaning behind the prompt or the question, we send that to the vector system, and the vector system does very quick matchmaking, where it tries to find of all the meanings I have stored, which meanings match what this user is after right now. And then we return, for example, the top 50 meanings from all of your data. And then we give these meanings to the second system, and we tell the second system now, answer the question using these facts, using these needles in the haystack that we have found for you. And by doing that, you help reduce the probability of hallucination significantly, because now you're refreshing the memory of the model at runtime. And then we have another system, actually another third neural network we built, which does fact checking on the outputs, right? So when you get the output of the RAG system, which is the answer, we take that answer, and then that neural network reads that answer and compares that answer to the needles in the haystack, the meanings that were retrieved from the vector system, and then issues back a factual consistency score. That is a score from 0 to 1, where 1 means it's perfect, there is no hallucinations, and 0 means it's complete lies, don't trust it. And this way, you know exactly where the answer stands. So sometimes the answer will be perfect, and you can put that answer in your email, you can put that answer in your response back to a customer or whatever. Or sometimes the answer is going to be 80% correct, which means maybe somebody should read it first before you send it back to an end user. So you need to have a human in the loop reviewing the answers. By having that extra measure of how accurate is the answer, that's how you simplify the process significantly. So in a nutshell, to respond to your question, no, we don't train on the customer data. We build these models using publicly available internet data, like Wikipedia, for example, is one of the key sources. The Common Web Crawl is another one. There's a number of these open data sets that you can leverage for doing this training. And then when the customer data comes in, it's only flowing through the models. It's not being used to train the models in any way, shape, or form. And our customers like that because they are afraid of having their data used to train the model, because that means if we train the model and then we become smarter than them at doing their business, then maybe we'll come compete with them in the future, right? So they don't want us to be training the model on their data.
But I mean, you could use a different approach. You could have, for example, this like a globally pre-trained model, what you are doing currently, and then you could have some kind of sandboxed pre-trained model based on a combination between the enterprise data and your model, for example.
Yes, but that's expensive though. So you're right. So you can do fine-tuning for the models, right? There's actually 4 core models that work hand in hand. If we get a bit technical, let me explain them very quickly. You have the model that is responsible for the memorization, for remembering everything and converting your data from words into vectors and meanings. That's model number 1. And then once the meanings go to the vector database and you fetch back the needles in the haystack relevant for the question, we have a second model, which is called the re-ranker model. The re-ranker model, what it does, it reads each one of these 50 results that were returned, these 50 needles that were returned, and ranks them. How truly relevant are they to the prompt or question that's being asked? So you can think of that as fine grain retrieval. So the first stage does coarse grain, and then the second stage does fine grain, where it ranks each one of these facts perfectly. That's the second model. The third model is the generative model, which takes all of the facts and the prompt and produces a response. And then the fourth model is the fact-checking model, or the hallucination detection model, which looks at the response and tries to assess it. So all of these models, we train them on publicly available data. We don't train them on the customer data. And we work very hard to make them work perfectly without ever seeing the customer data before. That's a technique called zero-shot modeling. So zero-shot means that without any prior examples or without any prior training on the customer data, the model can still do amazing. Now, that said, you are right. If you were to take any one of these models and you were further fine-tune them on the customer data, meaning further train them on the customer data, then you can get the performance to go up a little bit, right? For some use cases, that little bit is not worth it. Like if I have to pay another $100,000 or $200,000 to get the performance to go up by 3% for a customer support use case, not sure I want to do that. But for a if I'm doing medical diagnosis, which is a very high value and very high criticality use case, then yes, the fine tuning does make sense. So for some use cases, it does make sense. For others, it does not. So we do offer the fine tuning, but most customers actually don't need the fine tuning, and they say, no, thank you. We don't want to pay extra money for the fine tuning. We're happy with the basic performance as is.
So let's assume an enterprise customer comes to you. Maybe he's from a specific function, whatever, customer support, marketing, sales, or maybe in product someone. And of course, he is having his tech guy with him as a pair, because he will be implementing this stuff. But of course, he will have the product owner, business owner, whatever there as well. Walk me through the process of how he can build his own GenAI application. We're using Vectara as one of the inputs, basically. And tell me about how you compare against, of course, I understand with hallucination and so on against ChatGPT, but in terms of speed, how fast can I deploy an app? For example, comparing it, if I would build everything my own, whatever, I don't know, it would take maybe 10 times as long, it takes $1 million, whatever, something like this, to give me some kind of insights on why does it make economic sense to work with Vectara for me as a potential customer?
That's an excellent question. So in fact, there's two things that differentiate our solution in the market. The first one is solving all of these key problems around trust, right? Hallucinations, security, quality of the results, etc., etc. Everybody cares about that. The business user cares about that, and the developer cares about that, because the developer building a solution, they want to make sure it's producing good results. But the other thing that truly differentiates us is the ease of use. How easy can you get a pipeline like this? Can you get a RAG system up and running? And I learned a key lesson from my Cloudera journey that I'm applying now at Vectara while building this new product. So you interviewed me for Cloudera about 10 years, I think. 9 years ago, yeah. Cloudera was, yes, that was pretty cool. I think we did that interview at the Cloudera offices, actually, which was pretty cool. You were visiting the Bay Area at that time. So at Cloudera, we built a very powerful big data solution. It was extremely powerful. But at the same time, it was very complex. So it has many, many building blocks. You can think of them as Lego pieces. It had many Lego pieces, Hadoop, MapReduce, Flume, Kafka, Spark. There was like 30 different MiFi. There was 30 different things that we had in that box, in Lego pieces that we had in that box. And that allowed the developers to build anything they would like. But for most developers, it actually proved very hard to use. They're like, oh, I'm not sure which blocks to put together to make something work. Like, can you come help us out? So at Cloudera, my previous company, about 40% of our revenue was professional services, was actually not software, was working with customers to help them build something. And it would take 4 or 5 months to build something because of how complex it is and how many moving parts there is, and et cetera, et cetera. Now, at the same time that I was doing Cloudera and we were building out Cloudera, there was another company being launched that I became very jealous of later on. And I'll say that on this show, that I was very jealous of them. And that company is Snowflake. So Snowflake took a much different approach. Snowflake said, no, we're not going to give our users a very complex system with so many different Lego pieces so they can do everything they want. We will simplify it as much as we can. We will give them a very simple API where they can upload their data using the API and then start issuing SQL queries with another API. And then everything else just works, right? The scalability, the reliability, the security, the access control, the partitioning across different data centers, the re-indexing, the rebalancing. We'll just manage all of that magically for our end customers so that the developers can just focus on the task of getting something done, as opposed to how can I do it, right? So there's how can I do it and how can I use something else that works to get my job done. So Snowflake focused on that, and Snowflake succeeded way more than Cloudera in the big scheme of things because it enabled so many more developers to be able to do amazing things. So that was the key lesson, actually, I learned from my Cloudera journey. So the key lesson I learned from my Cloudera journey was ease of use, and building easy to use products for developers is one of the most effective ways to build successful products in this space. And there's many examples. Snowflake is not the only one. Like Snowflake is one very key example. MongoDB is another great example. MongoDB also built a very easy to use product for document-like data. If you look at Twilio, for example, Twilio, they are a notification API that helps you send notifications on your phone, when you're trying to recover your password and you get the second factor authentication code. Twilio is one of the most successful providers for that. And All they did is build a very simple API that let the developers connect to all of the different telecom providers like Vodafone and others to be able to send a message. Square is another great example of ease of use. Square, all they do is allow you to connect to the different banks to charge a credit card. That's all they do, right? But they made it way easier for the developer, and clearly they became very, very successful. It's a very long answer to your question, but the number one thing that we focused on at Vectara is how can we build an API that provides this RAG capability, provides this trusted GenAI capability to any developer to be able to plug that into their application and get it up and running in no time.
For example, when and here's the next question: are you only focusing on getting the people access to the API, or are you putting basically a database, security, whatever other wrapper inside, so that actually you help, so that the solution that you're delivering is not the API, but the actual Gen AI product that the people can run. So they don't need to build all the technical environments for it. They can build basically everything with it, because those would be my two questions. Are you only trying to use an API and all the rest you need to build yourself? Or is it, no, you can get the API, it's easy, and basically we help you set up your own either enterprise internal application, or maybe a monetizable application within 30 days, totally wrapped. We have all the tech environment set up for you to go to market faster, like in 30 days and compared to like 12 months, whatever.
Yeah. No, we are very focused on providing a platform as a service through an API. So again, very, very focused to be like Snowflake, like MongoDB, but for this space of RAG. We imagine, and that's the thesis for the company, that in the future, meaning 2 years from now, 3 years from now, every single application, in the same way when you're building any mobile app or building any enterprise app, every single application will need to have a database like Snowflake, but will also need to have a RAG system under it as well. And that RAG system is what's going to give that application intelligence and allow that application to be more intuitive and easier to use. And by the way, that will not just be for applications. That will also be for devices as well. Our car, our washing machine, our microwave, etc., etc. And I'll give you a couple of examples in a second here that illustrate that. But to finish answering your question, within that context of every application is going to need this, we as a company are very focused on just building a platform that provides the RAG capability with a very neat API. Now, that platform can be used for many different types of applications. It can be an enterprise search application. It can be a customer support application. It can be a manufacturing application. It can be a financial application. It can be a legal application. So we're not focused on the application. The application, that's the responsibility of the customer. What we're focused on is giving our customer a very powerful RAG system that they can plug into that application. So let me give you a couple of examples. Sonosem is one of our customers here in the United States. What Sonosem does is they help radiologists to use ultrasound machines. So when you're using an ultrasound machine, there is so many configurations that you need to apply, depending if you are scanning for pregnancy, the heart, the lungs, a muscle, a male, female, age group, race, the manufacturer and the model of the machine. There's so many factors that go into how you calibrate it. The expert radiologists know how to do that. The average radiologist, they struggle with it all the time. So what Sonosem did is they took the documents of all the manuals of the ultrasound machines out there, and they curated all of the best practices for how do you configure and calibrate the machine when you're scanning for pregnancy, when you're scanning the heart, etc., etc. Loaded all of these documents through our API into our RAG pipeline. And what they got back is a chatbot API that they connected into their mobile app, that now the radiologists in real time, while they're doing a scan, can simply chat with it like they chat with ChatGPT and tell it, I am scanning this patient. These are the characteristics of the patient. How should I configure that ultrasound machine? And the configuration comes back for them, the exact configuration they need to apply. And that makes the average radiologist become an expert radiologist, just like that. Another example, a company called Obaikan. Obaikan is the largest manufacturer in the Middle East. They have hundreds of thousands of workers in their factories. And sometimes the machines in the factory fail. When one of the machines in the factory fail, they have to call a technician to come and fix the machine. The technician can take 2-3 days to show up, which is downtime for the factory. So what they have done, they took all of the manuals of the machines in the factory. They took all of the troubleshooting tickets for how these machines were repaired and maintained in the past. Again, these are documents. They uploaded all of these documents into our platform. And what they got back again is an API for a smart AI assistant that is plugged into the mobile app that the workers have. And now when there's a problem with any of the machines, the workers just take a picture, describe the problem, and they get back the answer. And now the worker now gets to become a technician, because the worker now has this very smart AI assistant sitting by them, helping them fix the machine. The worker learns from it, so the worker gets upskilled because now they learn from the machine how to do technical tasks. The downtime is reduced for the machine because now the workers can fix them themselves. We don't have to wait for the technician, and we save money because we don't have to call in the technician, who is more expensive. So you can see all the benefits. But the key point here is the reason why I'm giving you these two examples specifically is the first thing that people think of when they think about GenAI and think about these technologies. They think about enterprise search. How can I use this in the enterprise to help my employees find information? That's only one of the use cases. It's a very important use case. But it's only one of them. The much bigger use case in the future, every app around us, every machine around us will have an interface that will allow us to talk to it. Like your car, even imagine, Martin, your car 2 years from now. Today, when your car shows you a red icon on the dashboard, when you look at the car dashboard and you look in the front and you see a red icon that something is wrong, you don't know what's wrong. And you have to open the manual. And usually the manual for the car is so big. I don't know why they make them so big. And then you have to find that red icon to figure out what was wrong with your car. In the future, you'll just ask, you literally just ask your car, hey car, what's wrong with you? And the car will read its own manual, will look at its own diagnostics, and then will answer you back and say, hey, there's a human, you need to go change my oil, or I need a new battery because my battery is too weak, etc., etc.
I would be really hammering down on the values and different so business value delivering, and only then how, because me as a customer in the first phase, I don't care what you're doing, whether you're using monkeys to solve my problem, I don't care. But if you are telling me, for example, you will have whatever, and then of course you need to have some proof behind that. I mean, you can't make up total bullshit claims. But for example, if you have some kind of case studies where you can prove, for example, version A ChatGPT doing this type of prompt thing, okay, 1% insurance risk or whatever in the medical field, for example. And then you compare it with you and you have like 0.1% error rate, whatever. And then you multiply this with the financial impact of something like this. And then you say like, bloop, okay, here with ChatGPT, yeah, it's cheap, whatever, I don't know. Yeah. But you pay like $5 million as a hospital per year if you are trying to use GenAI for this process. With us, yeah, you also have some risk, but for example, you in your business process, you are saving 10 million, but you have an insurance risk of 500K, whatever, and that's basically our net value to you. Okay, but copyright or insurance risk, so showing the financial value.
Yes.
And I think if we would think about this for like half an hour or an hour or so, we would be easily coming up with like only three, because I'm a big fan of simplicity and hammering down, because people don't have much bandwidth. Yeah, they don't. They want to go to a website and they immediately see like, wow, that's for me awesome, crazy. Yeah, I need to learn more about this, and then I'm hooked. And only then the people first would want to see proof of that. And then, for example, you could show ChatGPT, for example, this is the prompt that we did, this is the result, and then here's the A/B comparison. And then you could clearly see with the metrics. And you don't need to tell me, we are doing better with hallucination. I don't care. I don't believe you. Just show me here, ChatGPT, 5% hallucination. Boom, 0.1% hallucination. You can check it, highlight it, whatever, with the color marker, whatever. Yeah, you could say like, okay, if you want to build a GenAI application with other tools, Perplexity AI, boom, it takes you, I don't know, 10 people or so for working for 3 months and so on, because they need to do the fine tuning on the model. They need to make sure that the hallucinations are lower and so on and so forth. So, but we already have this baked in, for example. Yeah, we might be on a variable cost basis more expensive, but you are much faster go to market. And right now it's with the window of opportunity it's always like 12 months, 24 months, whatever. There's a window of opportunity. And if you are slow as a snail, you have a great idea. But somebody else will be faster. So, and if you're working with us, you are much faster. And if you are faster to the market, you have a first mover advantage, and you have the potential to be first at scale. And then what I thought before we talked, and you told me, okay, I'm only doing the API thing. I thought to myself, okay, if I were the number one GenAI platform, what I would be doing, and this has two advantages, what I'm telling you right now. One is monetization potential advantage, and the second one is significantly faster customer acquisition. And here's what my thinking process was. If thousands of companies or so are not only doing internal applications, but also external, so they're customer facing, you basically do an Apple app store on your end and saying, guys, you built your Gen AI solution with us, and we are helping you make more money because you just have your profile of company application 7.2.5, whatever, I don't know. Yeah. And we will get, of course, a revenue share. So we will be promoting your stuff. The bigger you are, the more queries you will be doing, the more infrastructure revenue we will be doing. And in addition, we are helping you increase the probability of your Gen AI app actually being a financial success, because they also need customers. And then, of course, you would need to think about whether this is like maybe only B2B or B2C. My guess would be that it's I would be starting with B2B because it's higher value in terms of tickets. Maybe less query volume, but on the other hand, if you're more focused on such kind of B2B app marketplace, it's easier to have like, okay, we have every month 100,000 people are coming to all of our apps, and they are all potential business buyers. So it's a more homogeneous type of people coming there, and then that's why it's an easier sell for the value of having like 10%, 15%, whatever revenue share that is generated through your Gen AI platform. Though this were my thoughts, where I like, okay, I mean, this is definitely one thing what I would explore. If were you.
That's a very interesting idea. Well, both of these feedbacks are very bad. The website comments you provided are dead on, spot on, correct. And we will make these changes. I will listen to your feedback, and our team will analyze it, and we'll make significant change to the website to align with the way you describe it, which I think makes more sense. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
I mean,
on the marketplace one needs more, because you don't want to come to an empty marketplace. So we need to build more customers first using us that we can. So when we launch the marketplace, there is a big enough portfolio, but that's also a very good idea. Yes.
But I mean, even if you would have like B2B Gen AI applications that are not only internal, I mean, if you would have whatever 100 customers and then 99% of them are doing internal processes, okay, not interesting. But if like 20-30% or so are customer facing, then you could. I mean, I would. If you are going to a company and say, guys, we can help you two ways. Internal applications, which is basically improving your efficiency, margins, process efficiency, etc. Okay, fine, great. But why don't you find ways for acquiring more customers, for example, or launching new products with us? Yeah, because Gen AI. I mean, think about what type of problems could you solve for your customers, and we are helping you with that. Okay. How did you start up with acquiring the first customers? So imagine, okay, you had your MVP launched. How did you go about finding your first customers?
Yeah, we have been in the market for about 1 year now. So we launched our product about a year ago. And for our first customers, we really wanted them to come to us versus we go to them and find them. So we built our product and our website in a way as much as possible to leverage what's called product-led sales. Not product-led growth, not sales-led growth, but product-led sales. Yeah. So product-led sales is where you have a good enough product where customers will come to you, they will start using you, and because of them using you, you now get a good indication that that customer is interested, and then you start having a conversation with them. Hey, would you like now to discuss having this contract with us that give you more features or give you more capabilities? So the customers we acquired over the last year, which is on the order of dozens. Like we have dozens of customers right now. They mostly came to us. Like 90% of them just came to us from the social media marketing we are doing and the social media activity, a podcast like yours that we're doing right now, et cetera, et cetera. But you're right. Now, over this next year, as we start to grow now more into an enterprise sales motion, you need to be going to them. Yeah, like some customers will come to you, but many you need to be going to them. So this year, which is our second year now in the market, we are hiring more salespeople and starting to be more outward facing, like going out and trying to find the customers. Yeah.
So I guess this sounds to me more like direct outreach, because I mean, if you're an enterprise space, you have a clear ICP that you can target.
Yes.
But
Exactly.
Again, the more I think about this in the back of my head, the more I would really be about this B2B app marketplace, because A, you will be making more revenue per customer, and B, if your clients then would be incentivized to promote, for example, their, let's call them landing page, and then they would be driving another 500 people in there, and maybe 2, 3, 4 of them would be see like, maybe I could use Vectara as well. And here's one more thing. Because you briefly touched on that, use cases. Yeah, I quickly watched through your website before our call, and like, okay, enterprise search or internal search or something like this. Yeah, okay, fine. What I really would have expected when I go under use cases, I would be saying, you guys, show me a really inspirational list of use cases that where I see like, I mean, crazy, I can use it everywhere. This is what I would have been done. For example, I could have said, okay, guys, you can use it in customer support. Use case 1, 2, 3, 4. You can use it in marketing. 1, 2, 3. You can use it in your legal practice. 1, 2, 3. Even in real estate. Okay, you are a real estate agency owner. This is what you can do. Give me some kind of insights. And then the funny stuff, what you could be doing. I don't know whether somebody's working in marketing at your company at this stage. Most likely not. But then I would have thought, okay, why don't you do some landing pages around that? For example, build your own customer chatbot for your enterprise using GenAI. Boom. I mean, just give you an example. Of course, you would need to do keyword research and so on. Yeah? But you would have, for all the different potential use cases, some landing page where whatever, some relevant potential clients are coming into your website, and then they easily understand, okay, that's the use case. Yeah, I'm looking for this right now. If they go to the homepage and see like, oh, okay, this makes sense. How do you compare to ChatGPT, for example, in terms of pricing? Because when I looked at your pricing, it says like, okay, first it's free. I mean, first, the good thing is you will have potentially some kind of a lock-in effect, because people have already built some stuff and so on, and they can just try it out, and you have a faster way of learning from them. What use cases are they actually needing?
Exactly.
What and models do they actually need? So you will increase your learning speed. Good. But then it says like, okay, if you want to scale faster or further, then please contact our sales. And I'm like, I would love to understand the price. How much does it cost? Because if you look at ChatGPT or Perplexity AI, they are like either based on the token volume or based on the number of queries.
Yeah, we charge by, it's based on how much data you're uploading in our platform. So the amount of documents, the size of the documents you're uploading, and then how many API calls are you issuing against the platform. We don't charge by tokens because most customers are very confused and they don't know what the heck is tokens. So that doesn't make sense to them. So that's the main mechanism. And it's roughly, you can think of it roughly, the scale pricing is around $8 for every 5 megabytes of data and 1,000 API calls.
Okay. So basically, if I'm only sending you text and then getting text back, it's quite cheap. If I'm sending you like big documents and videos and so on, it's a little bit more expensive.
Actually, no, because we only charge you by the amount of text that was extracted from your documents. So if you were to upload a very big PDF document, then no, we're only going to charge you for the amount of text inside of that document, not for the entire document. We do OCR, we convert the images into text. We do that, but yeah.
I would communicate this. I don't know whether you are already communicating this, but if I were a client and I would know like, oh, my employee handbook is like 20 MB in size, and I were like, oh my gosh, this will be expensive.
Yeah.
Okay,
no, you're right. So we are working on a pricing calculator that we are publishing on the website. And that pricing calculator will make it way easier for customers to see exactly how much they will end up paying.
And what I personally always try to do is not only a pricing calculator, but I'm a big fan of ROI calculators. I've done many ROI calculators myself for different services and so on, because I'm a big fan of making a purchase decision like really a no-brainer. And from my point of view, I mean, this is just a word, a ROI calculator. I mean, you could do it like a value to price calculator or whatever.
So not just show the price, but show the price within the context of the use case, so they
It's always
understand.
related to the value. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, we are charging $10,000. By God, that's expensive. No, you idiot. We are saving you $1 million right now.
Yeah,
We are
yeah,
fucking
yeah,
cheap.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
yes,
that's,
yes.
that's why just dropping an absolute number is nonsense. This is
Yeah.
the same with vanity metrics and real metrics.
Yeah.
Yeah? So what are the next steps for Vectara? So if we are meeting again, not in 9 years, but maybe like a couple of
Yeah.
months or a year or so, then where will Vectara be at that point in time?
We would have made all the changes you just recommended right now. So the next step for us is exactly to refine our go-to-market and our messaging. Like in the first year, we're very focused on the developers themselves, so we can get the feedback about the product and make the product better. Any startup, that's the first stage of a startup is that is the most important thing, is making sure you have the right product before you start scaling your go-to-market or scaling your marketing or anything. So our first year, which is this last year, was all about that. Like, can we get these early adopter developers, even if they don't pay us any money, that's fine, because what we care about is the feedback from them, so we can truly refine the product, make it easier to use, and truly solve the problems that we are claiming we can solve. And then this year, our focus is all about go-to-market, like you just described during this conversation. How can we improve the messaging on the website? How can we have different verticals, the content for accounting, the content for legal, for manufacturing, for health? How can we message properly to the business user and not just the developer? How to change our marketing campaigns and our field marketing and our conference and which conferences we attend, all of that kind of stuff. So that's kind of the main efforts for this year.
Because it's a technical product. Therefore it's complex for most people who don't have a clue about databases, data. But therefore, the easiest thing I think are really A to B comparisons, because then people will. But people don't need to hear a long story; they just need to see it. A/B test, and it's like, oh, okay, and then another A/B test. Oh, wow, crazy! I mean, I see it's better. You don't need to explain it to me, basically. Yeah. Oh.
Yes. Yes.
But of course, it's not easy. In terms, it's the same like what you said with Stripe and Snowflake and so on. The hard work is done in the back end, and then the API looks good. Yeah. And the same is if you're doing this type of testimonials thing or case studies or any other tip that you can give startup founders, maybe first-time entrepreneurs who are also currently thinking about starting their own SaaS company or GenAI company. They have a rough idea, but they are not very, very sure that this will be working and that they are trying to or solving a really painful problem for customers.
You gave some really good tips during this conversation yourself, so they should listen to all of your advice that you provided during this conversation. But if I were to add something, I would say there is a lot of entrepreneurs I see just excited by GenAI for the sake of GenAI. And I always tell them, like, technology is technology. Who cares? Like, go back and find the problem that needs to be solved and solve the problem in a good way. If you don't do that, then you're wasting your time. So that'd be my main caution, is don't get excited about GenAI for the purpose of GenAI. Focus on what problem can I solve leveraging GenAI, and then find these initial set of 10, 20 customers that you can do that for, so you can truly refine your solution, so it's really solving it in a way that is effective for them. If you do it that way, then your chances of success will be way higher than just building something you think is cool and this hope of if you build it, they will come. No, they might not come. Nobody might come, actually. So before you go and waste your time building something you think is cool, make sure you're solving a good problem for somebody first. That'd be the number one advice.
You are, for me, more of an infrastructure guy compared to like an application guy. If I'm looking at them like in the value chain, we can both agree that that GenAI will be having huge implications for multiple functions in multiple industries. We can agree on that. The question is then how to best position yourself as a company, as an infrastructure provider, and say, like, guys, we are providing an API, build whatever you want, we are charging you per megabyte or query. Or saying, yeah, we're an infrastructure guy, but we have identified 5, 10, 20 really awesome applications where we want to bring those to market in a kind of exclusive way, because we understand that each of those applications could be $1 billion company Yeah. So did you think about this type of approaches?
Yeah, so it's very hard to be both an infrastructure and application company at the same time at the beginning. You can do that later on as you grow, but it's very hard to do that at the beginning. At the beginning, you have to pick one of them. And it's very hard to do one application, let alone 20 applications. In the early life cycle, you really want to focus on either one application or just focus on being a platform.
Yeah.
Now, as you grow that platform, if you're doing your job right, and I'll pick Oracle here as an example. So Oracle was just a database at the beginning, right? The only thing they had was a database. And that's the only thing they did for maybe 10, 20 years. But as the database started getting more used and more widely accepted in the industry, they had the best vision in what were these 20 applications that are the most successful applications on top of database. Yeah. And then they started to either acquire these companies building these applications, or they start to build the applications themselves. So I think that visibility comes later in your life cycle. If you're a brand new company starting from scratch, you can't afford to be doing all of these things. Like, again, our team is just 25 people. Like, I can't have that's the engineering team. I can't have them working on 20 applications. I can barely have them working on the platform. So that's my key advice. You are right that there will be a lot of new applications that will come out of the space. But as an entrepreneur building in the GenAI space, you have to pick what you want to do. Either you're working on one of these applications and you're going to nail that application, or you're working on the core platform and making the core platform great. And then over time, then you can start seeing, okay, maybe I should add this application. Maybe I should add that application over time. But you cannot do that at the beginning. And again, if you look at, again, lots of the successful platform companies today, that's what they have been doing. Like Twilio, like we mentioned them earlier, they started as the core platform just for sending notifications, but now they do customer experience applications. They build this holistic customer experience application that came later, right? So, and that's fine. You can do that.